Okay, guys, let's talk about today about Steve Jobs. We all know about his biography, what he's done in his life. Imagine a room filled with like the smartest engineers in California, oscilloscopes buzzing, whiteboards covered in a half erased diagrams, prototyped on every table. Everybody's brilliant, everybody's skilled, everybody's working themselves into the ground. And then, like a Steve Jobs walks in, he doesn't grab a marker, he doesn't explain a new formula, he doesn't open Xcode and start typing. He looks, and that's it. He walks around the table slowly, hands in the pockets, silent, scanning the prototypes like a museum curator walking past paintings. And here's the thing, no one tells you that silence was often worth more than the entire week of engineering work. Because Jobs had one rare skill almost nobody develops, the ability to edit reality, curation, and then creation. We grow up thinking, the heroes of innovation are makers, the people who write the code, design the chip, soldier the circuit, paint like a concept art. But Jobs' genius didn't come from adding; it came from deciding. He was the person who said, "This stays, that goes. That this direction is dead, and this direction is life." He treated ideas like living creatures. Some deserve to evolve, others deserved a quick death before they wasted oxygen. And it sounds simple, but it's not, because most people fall in love with their own work, but Jobs didn't. Jobs was ruthless with drafts, especially other people's drafts. And weirdly, that's exactly why Apple's products looked like they came from like one single mind. And he didn't have the best hands, he had the best eyes. And here's something crazy. When Johnny Ive, the design genius behind the iMac, iPhone, Apple Watch, explained how he worked with Jobs, he didn't say Jobs designed things. He said he edited my ideas until they became inevitable. And that word inevitable hits different, because that's how the best curation feels. Not forced, not random, not chaotic, but like the product was always supposed to look this way, and everything else was noise. Jobs would sit with a mock-up for hours, running his fingers along the edges, turning it under the light, asking questions no engineer ever asked it. Things like, does this feel alive? Does this a part disturb the flow? What is the emotional center of this object? Can we remove this feature? No, try again. He didn't chase features, he chased feelings. Great creators remove. Picture two artists. One adds more paint, more color, more shapes. Another one raises strokes, changes angles, removes distractions. Jobs was the second type. People say he loved simplicity, but that's not precise. He loved essentiality. He hated when objects looked like they were trying too hard. He hated when buttons begged for attention. He hated when like a screens felt busy, because busy means panic. He once told his team, if you see a button and you don't instantly know what it does, it's failure. In other words, or without extra, not like additional explanation, viewer should be able to understand what the heck this like a button does. And this is creator thinking. It is subtractive genius, and honestly it's harder than creating, because anyone can add, but subtracting requires confidence. And here's a wild thing from Apple's history. Like, engineers would often present 4 or 5 prototypes for like a single feature, or solid or functional, but Jobs didn't ask. He was saying things like, how many megapixel is this? What is the like refresh rate? What is the battery draw? He asked it which one has a soul. And the engineers hated this at first. A soul, seriously? But then they realized something strange. Every time Jobs chose the soulful version, it ended up being the one users loved. In other words, maybe Jobs was not like an engineer, but he was understanding, I guess, psychology. And not because of the specs, because of direction. Jobs didn't design the pixels, he designed the path. He didn't write the code, he chose the feeling. And maybe it could be subjective, but as we can see, he was kinda understanding the masses, the psychology of masses. And this is what a curator does. They select the direction that resonates at a human level, even before they can logically explain why. And what if Jobs' collaborators said something brilliant? Steve could smell when an idea had life in it. And that sounds mystical, but it's not. It's pattern recognition at insane levels. Imagine, reviewing thousands of like design over like a decades, and your brain becomes like, a hyper accelerated pattern matcher. Like you stop seeing what the idea is now, and start seeing what it could become. And Jobs didn't look at drafts. He looked at futures, and that's how, that's why so many Apple products felt inevitable. The moment they appeared, they looked like the future, not the present. Most creators cannot see that. Curators can. And here's the dark side of curation. You must be ready to kill 90% of ideas, including good ones. And Jobs killed the Apple PDA. He killed thousands of iPod variations. He killed features that teams loved. He killed the physical keyboard. He killed Flash on iPhone. He killed the iPod entirely once the iPhone was ready. He said, I'm as proud of what we don't do as I'm of what we do. So in other words, he was focusing not just about what to do, but also about what not to do. And this is creator excellence. This is editing as leadership. And this is where the most people fail. We get attached, we get sentimental, we want to save everything. But Jobs had zero emotional loyalty to drafts, one only to the final experience. And Jobs once admitted he wasn't a great engineer. He wasn't a great coder. He wasn't like a great mathematician. He wasn't like a best public speaker or the most polite manager. His edge was something else, taste. In other words, he was acting more like a filter. And taste is the lens you see to recognize what is good, what is confusing, what is distracting, what is elegant, what is alive. Taste is decision making at the emotional level, and emotional like decisions guide product adoption more than technical ones. People didn't wait in line for specs, they waited in line for how Apple products made them feel. And who decide that feeling? The curator.